Hi, it's 1450 KMMS 1340 KPRK. My name is Chris Griffin. I push buttons at a radio station. His name is Jeff Krauss, and he's the city commissioner for Bozeman. And you're also spending some time with Initiative 182.
I am the treasurer for Initiative 182. We're trying to get it qualified with signatures on the signatures, petition signatures to qualify it for the ballot. It renames the Montana Marijuana Act to the Montana Medical Marijuana Act and amends the act. It allows a single treating physician to certify medical marijuana for a patient diagnosed with chronic pain, and it includes post-traumatic stress disorder as a debilitating medical condition. Licensing requirements, fees, and prohibitions are detailed. For medical marijuana dispensaries and testing laboratories, it repeals the limit of 3 patients for each licensed provider and allows providers to hire employees to cultivate, dispense, and transport medical marijuana, repeals the requirement that physicians who provide certifications for 25 or more patients be referred to the Board of Medical Examiners, and it removes the authority for law enforcement to conduct unannounced and unwarranted inspections of medical marijuana facilities, but does require annual inspections by the state.
What draws you to this issue?
Well, sick people. So when medical marijuana passed 64% on the ballot in a ballot initiative years ago, almost a decade ago now, 64% people voted for it. The cities were left dangling by the Attorney General and the people in Helena, and we had to deal with it. So we constructed laws in Bozeman under my mayorship, I was mayor then, to examine the issue. And we had a bunch of charrettes, and we had a bunch of meetings on it, came up with some good ideas, and we managed to control it, I think, in a way very differently in Bozeman than it was anywhere else in the state. And in the course of all that, I met with many people who gave anecdotal personal testimony about the benefits of medical marijuana for multiple sclerosis, for Parkinson's disease, for Crohn's disease, for their cancer release, just so they could live from day to day. And, when we announced this initiative, you might have seen and heard from Katie Mazurek, Bozeman mother here in town. She's in her early 30s. Suffering from cancer. I'm sure she doesn't mind me using her name because she was one of the front people for this. And her testimony was very typical of what I heard, which is it lets me get out of bed and go eat something and sort of ignore and put aside the pain and the physical effects of chemotherapy. Of course, since then, I've had chemotherapy. Medical marijuana, I don't think, was an option for my chemotherapy, but it was very clear to me when I was doing chemotherapy, I would use a coarser euphemism, but I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself, much less grow my own medical marijuana, nor was I supposed to touch fruit, right? Because there might be contaminants on the fruit that would affect my zero white blood cell count, much less dig in the dirt to grow my medical marijuana. It was ridiculous, right? So in 2011, the legislature put all these controls in, which under the guise of fixing some of the, and I think there were incredible sort of abuses of this, but under the guise of fixing the abuses, effectively banned it and made it unavailable for use again. And in my opinion, not only is that contrary to what law says, if they said an act repealing and they passed that would be one thing, but they sort of lied about what they were doing. And that's the one thing. But the other one is the suffering. One of my favorite stories that I was told was by a priest, and I won't say of what religion or anything else, but it wasn't a Catholic priest, but who was given medical marijuana by the sheriff so that he could distribute it to cancer patients. And it wasn't a person here in town either. So don't try to figure out who it was. It was someone who'd driven here to tell me that story and to tell me how effective it was and what we should do to deal with that. And after that, I would have, people would contact me and say, well, do you know a reliable person where it's organic and, all of these things. And it's not for me, it's for my mother who has throat cancer. Right. This kind of thing, which was going on. And, and I think since then the research is pretty strong on PTSD. And you don't have to be a veteran. You could also be emergency personnel veteran or other that gets affected by PTSD, and Parkinson's and epilepsy and Crohn's and multiple sclerosis.
Social anxiety.
I can only name the ones that I've been, hearing about. And so what the new law that passed that was upheld by the Supreme Court, by the way, Mike Wheat, the Supreme Court justice from Bozeman, was the lone dissent. Well,
let me ask you this, Jeff.
Yeah.
Because there are a number of listeners right now going, I knew Krauss was a stoner, and that's the only reason why he wants to get this thing passed is because he's a stoner. How do you counteract that? Because I understand the medical value. I know firsthand from a friend of mine who went through cancer and survived it.
Yeah.
When I had broken my fib, I was on Oxycontin. And I would have probably, if medical marijuana was available, probably would have opted for a medical marijuana option rather than Oxycontin. So those are just two anecdotes, one personal, one from a very dear friend of mine who got through his chemo with medical marijuana. How do you counteract that prevailing thought is, these people are just stoners and want to get high?
So the issues of veterans' access to medical marijuana has got a lot of strong bipartisan support at the federal level, and both Montana Senators Daines and Tester endorsed legislation that is pending before Congress to allow access to medical marijuana for veterans in the current 24 states that have adopted medical marijuana laws. It is being used to treat veterans for PTSD, and it's a much safer option than opioids, right, for managing pain. If you think about how many people die of opioids and prescription drug abuse, and how many die of marijuana abuse, there's sort of a what would you call it? A donut on the one side, right, and a huge tens of thousands on the other side, right? So, no, this is, I approach it as a matter of public policy.
We have about 40 seconds remaining. Do you view the discussion of opioid abuse in the nation in the rise of medical marijuana or even recreational marijuana, which this initiative is not recreational, it's medical, but the rise of the opioid addiction conversation and the rise of medical marijuana, do you think it's coincidence?
No, I actually think the prescription abuse is something that's happened for other reasons. No, let's not make sick people prosecuted for being criminals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.